Hi guys, best regards from Ingolstadt. I have heard that you entered the Kamel GT Championship this year in the good old GTO car, so I wish you best of luck and a lot of success.
This is it. 12 weeks of hard work, sweat, and tears will be decided in both championships at the end of today's race. With things this tight, the last thing you'd want is a track which offers unpredictability. The bad news for those drivers is that today we race at Watkins Glen. Draft battles and race-ending wrecks are an unfortunate reality here. Let's find out who gets to celebrate today as we get ready to watch round 12 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Cracker Zambros, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. IMSA has made this place home for a number of years, and sports cars are undoubtedly a staple at this course. To get an idea of what the drivers are up against, let's get a little more insight into Watkins Glen International. Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time. You see some of the incredible turns that we have around here, but Adam, why don't we get a little bit more into the stats of this place before we get to the actual racing here?
Absolutely, Joe. Located just south of Seneca Lake in central New York, Watkins Glen Internationals not only host great racing, but great history as well. The International Motor Racing Research Center located at the track is focused on preserving the history of motorsports, and I'm sure they'd approve of what we have on tap today. The Nissan GTP and Audi GTO racing the pre-1991 classic boot layout of this historic track. This is the 11-turn layout that's 3.4 miles and 5.47 kilometers, and the Nissans today will be feeling very at home at the many high-speed sweeping turns. But the medium-speed turns will come with a few bumps that may upset the car and induce wheel spin. The Audis will struggle with front-end grip on the outer loop through turn 9, but will rocket down the many straights at the Glen. Multi-class wise, each driver will have to be careful on the longer sweeping corners, especially through the S's, as the Audis will tend to wash out from the racing line more and more as the race progresses. Likewise, the Nissans will be getting lighter and braking later, so the Audis will have to watch out for late dives to the apex from their faster compatriots. All in all, Watkins creates close racing and lots of action, and it sounds like our point standings may reflect the same sentiment. How about them, Joe?
Well, let's start off with the prototypes, the GTP Championship. That one's a little bit farther apart. and could be a little bit more of a sure thing. Justin Albrecht leading by 16 points means that the simplest way to figure this out is if Justin finishes 12th or higher, he has clinched the championship. He cannot be caught. Of course, you've got Ardo Iamaki and Nick Mukanos a little bit separated there, so third also not likely to change hands. Really, the closest fight we've got is down between Mukanos and Olenek between 4th and 5th. But all eyes are on Albrecht and Gerber. Could Justin get his first championship is the big question. The GTOs, that's the one we were spending a lot of time talking about. Adam, fill us in on that.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to start from the bottom here. Franco Scurry, 52 points out. He's not mathematically capable of winning it, but everybody else on that screen is theoretically capable of winning this championship. We got Reed Miller, 24 points behind. Jamie Hall, 18 points behind. Those two, it's going to be difficult. It's going to take a wreck from the lead two for those two to get it. But Yoni Hagner, only 3 points behind. That means if Phil Lake finishes second to Yoni Hagner winning the race, that would put Yoni Hagner ahead on countback. So Phil Lake needs to win this race ahead of Yoni Hagner in order to secure this victory today.
Be curious to see if we've ever had a tie at the top end of this championship at the end. But we've also got one other championship we've been following. That has already been clinched. That is the Milk Zoo GTO Championship. And that is Franco Scurry who wrapped that one up last week. Of course, a big congratulations to him. That is only Italian drivers competing in that one. We saw the video ahead of time with a big good luck from Frank Biella. At this point, it is others trying to sort out the scraps of that one today. We'll try and follow that as well as things go on. Now, the race itself, of course, is important, Adam. So what are the race details for today?
Definitely. This is the final race for the Kamel GT Series, round 12 of 12 today. This is an official iRacing series, so you can go ahead and jump on and join these guys. We got a large field today. It's a 40-minute race, so it's not their endurance format, so you won't see pit stops, but you will see open setups. So you can set up the car to your liking or not, depending. But you get no fast repair here, no free car, so that means that you're going to have to take care of your car during this race, and that there's also no incident limit, so take as many off-tracks as you please, so long as your safety rating can hold up.
Well, right now, qualifying is going on, and up at the top of the GTPs, the provisional pole sitter is Albrecht, but I just saw him wreck out of his second lap. So now Fabian Gerber has an opportunity to maybe get by him in the timing sheets here. So he is about half a second back. He's got a long ways to go to improve. Up at the top of the GTOs, it's Yoni Hagner. No surprises there. Our quickest. Phil Lake, actually similar to what we saw in practice, where he's down in third. So unfortunately for Phil Lake, it's looking like he might lose out this season as well. Gerber comes across the line, and Gerber doesn't improve. Interesting.
Yeah, so that puts Justin Albrecht way up there at the top. He's likely going to hold on to that spot for pole. We're going to go back to Yoni Hagner, who's on his second lap right now. It's not likely that these guys are going to improve just due to the nature of how the tires wear and how quick the track is. It doesn't take them long to build heat into these tires in this current build in iRacing, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not anyone can top Yoni on their second lap.
Jamie Hall just took third from Lake. Lake comes across and improves by 0.3 of a second, and he gets third right back from his teammate, but he doesn't put it on pole. Hagner, who we were watching just a second ago, is coming up to 2 final corners, and then he will be able to settle whether or not he is the quickest. Right now, he's got about 0.2 over Villirola, his teammate, which could play a part in this race, as both the Dirty Torque drivers have been close together in pace, and the Glacier, he does improve by another 0.1, so that puts him even farther out of reach.
So that makes it interesting to see whether or not Jamie Hall can jump Phil Lake again on his second lap. Villirola just came across the line and could not improve on his time, so we're going to look at Martin Krejcik, who's about to cross the line. He's currently placed in 10th. Let's see whether his second lap's better.
He comes across. A 31.6 becomes a 31.4, another 0.2 faster, but he stays in 10th position. Wow. 8th, 9th, and 10th are very close together. They're separated by 4 1,000ths currently. So that mid-pack incredibly tight there in that field. Jamie Hall coming across for his second lap, and he should have enough time here with a little over a minute left. Could he demote his teammate? Again, he's still fighting for the championship, even though he is a long shot, and they've told us that they have no team orders, of course. at least until someone is mathematically eliminated. And since Jamie could still win it, he's going to want the best qualifying possible. His best is a 44.2, and that does take third, back away from Phil Lake.
It's going to make it really difficult for Phil Lake because he'll be starting on the inside going into the first turn. And with as many Audis as we see today, which you're about to read about, that's going to make things very interesting to see whether or not our top four can survive the first corner.
The good news is we have a full pace lap to go through these, so we've got time as we're watching John Keefe now. He's got both of his laps in. He's in 14th, and his quickest was a 32.4. Looking at Laust Olsen, he is on his second lap. 20 seconds left. This is going to be awful tight on whether or not he can make it.
Yeah, I don't believe he's going to be able to make it. He's got about 30 seconds left of a lap, and he's got 7 seconds left on the clock, so he's not going to make it to the line, unfortunately.
Yep, 4 seconds left. That's going to wrap things up. Our order is set here for the final round of the Kamel GT races. And let's go through our starting order 10 at a time. Justin Albrecht on the pole, ahead of Fabian Gerber. Those two have been rivals for multiple seasons now, and this is the first time we've seen Justin this close to taking the championship. Rob Olenek is in third. He could upset the apple cart as well. Tobias Gerber will be starting P4 with Kitty Ingstrom starting in fifth. Then you've got Nick Mukanos in P6 behind them. Dustin Heroder starts in 7th. John Atkinson Jr. is 8th. Heitor Sentes Guindo, a bit of a poor qualifying for him. He's down in 9th. And Martin Krejcik rounds out your top 10.
Andre Monteiro is starting off in 11th position with Fabian Jungbluth starting off in 12th. Robert Plumy starting off in 13th position with Daniel G. Thomas in John Keefe in 14th. Daniel G. Thomas is going to start off in 15th position. 16th is going to be Scott Willis. Laust Olsen is starting off in 17th, and Johnny Bell starting off all the way back in 18th. Not a great qualifying for him either. Eduardo Letiedo starts off 19th and rounds out the GTP field, and then Yoni Hagner on pole for the GTOs.
And next to him, it's going to be Vili Rolla with Jamie Hall behind them, alongside his teammate Phil Lake. There's your Glacier and your Dirty Torque drivers right there. Ove Trangrade after that. Then you've got Reed Miller following, and Riley Thompson, 28th overall. Daniel Sadro will be starting in 29th, and Robert Lukoshek joins us once again in 30th.
31st is Giossi Leocada, and then Ben Laughter starting off in 32nd with Fabio Lotti in 33rd. Remigio De Pasqua is going to start off 34th on the overall grid with Franco Scurry behind him, actually. So Franco not as good at qualifying as Remigio, interestingly. Joseph Erlbach starting off in 36th. Roberto Di Filippi in 37th. Christian Scrazzi is going to start off in 30th position with Esko Letaniame. Wow, sorry. In 39th position, Juan Ignacio Juderchura starting off in 40th.
You get all the hard ones. Wolf Dietrich Hotho is in 41st with Pascal Malenfant Tremblay starting 42nd. Unfortunately lost the F2 championship just a couple hours ago in Lotus 49. He'll try and have a better run here today. Dominique Bureau will be starting 43rd with Matthias Rydell in 44th position overall. Antonio Arcidiacono, one of our competitors in the Milk Zoo Championship, 45th. Fabrizio Raffa in the 46th position. Michael Haynes starting 47th today. Simo Raba, 48th, and Jim McGill, 49th. Then you get, you're into the drivers that did not qualify. Luis Bernardino and Ryan Lang will be starting with the GTP cars, so they will not be scheduled behind them, lined up behind these other GTOs that we're reading. Carlos Fonseca, Barry Bowes, David Lambie, and David Hudson round out our 53-car field here today. Huge field. And they come up through the S's now, both of them here, Adam. My big worry with this big of a field and everybody anxious to try and get the best position in this final race, we could have a track blockage, and that has happened before in multiple series at this track.
Yeah, it actually happened during the Kamel GT special event last week 13, and I was actually racing that one and got caught up in it. And so it's something you could come upon unsighted if you're back in the pack like Riley Thompson or Ove Trangrade in the GTOs. It can be really difficult to see those accidents that happen up ahead of you, so you got to listen to the comms and keep your eyes out ahead. But even then, sometimes you just get caught unawares, so it can be Yeah, this is going to be very interesting with this many cars. I mean, just look at the field. Look how large it is.
And it's split up too, so we weren't even looking at the whole field on that camera shot. This is just the prototypes, the GTP cars that we were talking about. Again, thank you for joining us. If you're coming in to tune in, what a race that you have decided to come and watch this time. If this is your first time witnessing this, be ready for some action. If you've never watched Kamel GT before, the difference between these cars, Adam, you are well aware of this, makes for just incredible non-stop frantic racing.
Yeah, it's anywhere between 10 to 20 miles per hour in the turns, especially the high-speed ones. But on the straights, they're actually fairly even. It's more like 5 to 10 miles an hour. So that makes it really interesting to see the difference in speed at different places on the race course. It's quite different than most multi-class series in iRacing.
There's a lot of places as well where the drivers will have to swing across the track for the racing line, which can make for miscommunications. Everybody's got to keep their head up as now they come out of the boot through the tricky turn 9. This is, if you're used to watching NASCAR here, this is back onto the main circuit where they will finish up 2 more corners. Then we go racing for 40 minutes here today for the finale of the Kamel GT series. The Porsche pace car leading Justin Albrecht. Is there butterflies in his stomach? Is he nervous? Does he feel like he can finally beat Fabian Gerber, as he has been beaten so many times by Fabian over the years here in Kamel GT? Pace car around the final corner, getting ready to pull in. Justin has control of the fields. He checks them up. Oh, and there's already an accident behind them as the green flag comes out. One car gets spun and actually sent up in the air, but I think it's just a single car incident as everybody else gets away down into the 90. We'll go back to the replay of that later as we watch to see if we have any more problems, but it is clean through turn 1. Let's go to the Audis.
Yeah, it looks like Fabrizio Raffa already had an incident as well, but quite a few of the Audis have made it safely through the first couple of turns. Looks like we have a couple of bumping and banging going down with Riley Thompson in the back, but those front 4 are steaming away.
So everybody safe through the 90. Unfortunately, a few with damage already in the pits with that pre-green flag incident. Up at the front, Justin Albrecht, you can see, pulling a gap of about 0.7 of a second over Fabian Gerber. Rob Olenek is giving chase and already putting a little bit of pressure on the number 2 car. Then things get very tight behind them as we have an absolute train of prototypes behind them, including Gerber, Engstrom, Lucanos, and Heroder.
Yeah, and things are just as exciting back in the Audi class. We've got Joni Hagner and Villy Rolla actually duking it out side by side. And look at this, Phil Lake going around the outside of Jamie Hall through the heel of the boot. That usually doesn't work, but he's finding some pace out there. Really interesting to see the different strategies. It looks like all the gloves are off. There's no holds barred now in the Audi class.
Hall doesn't let him through. And apologies a bit earlier, I was talking about Hall being in this championship. It was Reed Miller, I believe, that I was mistaking that with. Actually, no, Hall is in this, isn't he? I'm confusing myself at this point. We'll address that later, and I'll make sure and check my notes twice as we continue to watch our leaders in the GTOs coming around the penultimate corner. And Hagner pulling himself a little bit of a gap over his teammate, about 0.5 seconds.
Yep, and these 4 are starting to pull away a little bit. They're towing along Reed Miller. It actually looks like we've got a really long string of cars all the way back down to Ben Laughter in 11th position, who are all still line astern here at the beginning of this race. We haven't seen these front 4 pull away.
And Rob Olenek has just taken second away from Gerber. Did it with a slipstream down the backstretch into the carousel. Nicely done by the number 3. To get himself up ahead of Gerber. This is horrible news for Fabian, who again has to get quite a bit of points and hope for a bad race from Albrecht. And this 3rd place is certainly not going to do it right now.
And this is really interesting because we've seen Rob Olenek's pace increase over the course of this season. This is his first season in the GTP. He was racing for the championship last year in the GTO versus Nicholas McConos, who's also switched to the GTP this year. And so it's amazing to see his pace increase over the course of the year. And now he's pulled almost a second gap over Fabian Gerber. Oh, we have an accident in the Audis. That is Robert Lukaszek.
It's coming out of the chute, and he's kind of at a bad place as well. He's all the way down past the top 40, and he's going to take a tow even. So Unfortunately, looks like we won't be able to get a replay on that. He made contact with Giosu Leokada twice, actually, through the corner. Leokada managed to keep going, lost a couple spots with it to Laughter and Iodi, but not without some severe damage, unfortunately.
We've had another incident. It looks like Christian Scrazia has spun in the Audi GTOs. He spun from about 12th or 13th position as well.
Looks like did he have a little bit of contact? Yes, he did. It was with Juan Judorsha. Those two came together at the heel of the boot. Both of them sent off course. Both able to keep going, though. I think Judorsha, though, might be damaged as he's looking like he's moving pretty slow.
Yeah, Judorsha's got a toe break, and oh my goodness, look at this battle in the GTOs. It's the number 8 car who sends, look at that, he sends Kitty off on the tail of the boot, but they're going to close up behind another car.
Oh, there's a late defense there from Montero. Kitty tried to get that spot back, but just wasn't quite working out. They're also following Dustin Hirota very closely. This is all for 6th place. Look behind them. Don't forget about Sintez Guindo and Martin Kraytrick. Oh, and we got an accident. That was Montero.
Yeah, Montero's been... He got sent around a little bit. He got a little bit loose coming through the boot, and so that's got him really loose now before he got to the final corner.
Yeah, it looks like he got loose, and then he got sent the rest of the way around by Ingstrom, who really didn't have much time to react. You could see with the barrier right next to it. Unfortunately, he clanged up against it immediately. That sends him down to 18th. Oh. He's had a big spin. Well, and that might be race over there for him, as that car's not looking good. Well, I spoke too soon. He's going to try and drive it back.
He's got a full lap to go with it, but Riley Thompson and Daniel Sadro have been making a significant contact with each other nose to tail quite a bit, and it looks like Riley Thompson has gotten the best of Daniel Sadro now and is now up into that 5th position, but I'm not sure whether he's going to be able to catch up to the back of Reed Miller ahead of him. We saw those two have a nice battle last week. It's not that far up to them, but he doesn't have a drafting partner, so that's going to make things difficult for him to close that gap up to 5th position.
Yes, I'm surprised at how much things have spread out in the Audis as they punch a big hole in the air. Would have expected a lot more trains up to this point before they get interrupted by the GTPs, which will certainly separate things significantly. Meanwhile, the top 4 still being led by Hagner, his teammate playing the support role of holding back Hall and Lake.
Yeah, but Phil Lake's got a big problem. That is Yoni Hagner in the lead. That's his championship contender. He needs to beat him in order to win the championship. And he's right now in 4th, falling back from all of these guys. He's 0.8 seconds behind his teammate Jamie Hall, and that makes things very difficult to close up to the back, especially when you're not gaining a lot of draft on the straights. So Phil is going to have to hope that his late race pace can make up for this early race drop in place position.
Yeah, not only that, but I wonder if the traffic could potentially play a part in this. Once they get caught, that could give them opportunities to start to make up ground. And it's the last round. Now is the time you got to start taking some chances.
Well, you said traffic, and Justin Albrecht is actually catching up to the back of the GTO field just because of how big it is already, and he's scything his way through. These are the most dangerous cars in the back because a lot of these drivers don't have a lot of experience in the Audi. It's not that they're bad drivers, but this car is very finicky to drive. Both of these are, and so Justin Albrecht is looking for any way to get by. It looks like Christian Scrazzi is going to give him some room after his early accident.
Yeah, the Buckeye is making ground right now. He's up to 1.7 seconds ahead of Olenek. And Olenek, though, we've had a problem behind him.
Scott Willis has gone off. He's
the number 51 car. Yeah, this is one of our prototypes coming through the penultimate turn. Ooh, this was contact with traffic, actually. De Filippi's one of our milk suit drivers, unfortunately. We want to wind up the replay. There we go. You see him coming back on after the incident.
He had quite a few moments here. He had trouble recovering the car as well, as we're seeing him kind of turn it around in reverse. It looks like he's having trouble getting the gearbox to engage.
Oh, unusual stuff there. Yeah, he is well down into the thick of the drivers in the GTO class, so really shouldn't be there right now. Oh, and Rob Olenek has made up a bunch of ground on Albrecht since we were looking at that. Oh, and the traffic. Oh, Albrecht! Albrecht is off!
He's out!
How is he out? What happened?
This is major points implications.
He can't have hit the incident limit. There's no way.
There is no incident.
Well, there is no incident limit in this series.
He went off track. He went out of the racing. He went.
You can usually go that route, though. You shouldn't disappear at that point.
Well, something beyond that happens, but that puts Rob Olenek in the lead and Fabian Gerber in second. This changes everything about the points championship.
My goodness. Could Albrecht now be losing it in the very final round? I'm seeing that he's disconnected. He's not even in the server anymore, so it doesn't look like he has intentions of finishing. This will be a 0-point finish, as he has no drop weeks, and they have enough cars that you can get a 0 today. Gerber will, in fact, take this championship as long as he finishes. I have to check the math on this, but probably about mid-pack or higher, so he's doing it now.
Fabian Gerber, I mean, this is a huge godsend for him, but man, Justin Albrecht, after working so hard and beating Fabian Gerber at almost every race this season, it just takes one moment to throw that all away.
I am just absolutely gobsmacked. I can't believe that just happened. Meanwhile, we've got some action for third in the prototypes because they got a lot of traffic in front of them. And that is Gerber and Heroder, along with Mukanos behind them. They're somehow getting their way through what is just a clog of GTO cars.
This is Tobias Gerber we're talking about, and Dustin Heroder and Nick Mukanos. They're all trying to cut their way through and pass one another. Heroder has been very aggressive early on in this race and has been right on the bumper of Gerber through this traffic, but the traffic's really holding them up. I think they're going to be able to catch this next group, which is a really close battle for the Milk Zoo guys on the next straight, I believe. We're going to see how close they could get.
You can see at the tail of that group, Sintes Guindo and Ingstrom have caught each other. Ingstrom comes out on top with 7th, but really there's nothing splitting all the way from 3rd down to 7th in our prototype field.
Well, the prototypes are very close, and it looks like Robert Plumley has had his issue, but we're going to stay right here because these GTPs are going to get into a very interesting moment.
Yeah, we're checking out to see Plumley get going once again. He was sort of caught on the inside of the heel of the boot. So he had some problems there for something. We've come back now to Tobias Gerber leading all these cars. Oh, and they're catching them in the S's. This is going to be a little bit tricky. And in fact, that causes a pass between Scurry and Leo Cotta, and that clogged things up once again. Are they going to go 3 wide? Not quite, but still, you've got Mukanos, who is slow, with Ingstrom with a run behind them, punching a hole in the air for Sintes Guindo, who lifts as they come up to the carousel, and Ingstrom is going to take 5th away.
But for how long? Nick Mukanos has a decent car as well. He just got held up through the S's. We're going to see whether or not Mukanos can make the pass back, but Engstrom is starting to run away with it a little bit, with Heroder and Tobias Gerber still neck and neck ahead. I think we're going to have to go to the lead, Joe, because Fabian Gerber has caught up to the back of Rob Olenek.
He has indeed. It is 0.3 of a second, and they are finding more traffic. It's a battle in front of them between Miller and Thompson, and they are blocking things up once more. Olenek has nowhere to go, but neither does Gerber. He has to hold up as much as that green, white, red, and black car does. Finally, they find a space through, but Gerber is right on his gearbox now.
Yeah, it's going to take another moment like that, and they don't have that many cars ahead of them to do it, but Fabian Gerber almost had a fantastic opportunity to pass Rob in that moment.
Hard to know where to look in this field. Everything is so tight through much of our drivers. Usually it spreads apart when they come into traffic, but now it is just crunched together with really no time between anybody. Now that Olenek has gotten a little bit of a gap, let's head back to Heroder, who's been chasing Gerber, but instead he's now got Engstrom with a big run, and Engstrom is going to be able to get another position exactly as he did the last time through, down to the inside on the back stretch, getting Engstrom up to 4th now.
Engstrom is showing some really strong pace here. Dustin Hroder's trying to get him on the exit, but look at this as they go by Riley Thompson and Reed Miller again. Riley's going to be stuck on the outside of that corner. As we look at the 007 cam from the back of Engstrom, Dustin Hroder doing a good job to try and stay with these guys, but they're catching up to Tobias Gerber now, and this is actually going to get pretty close. Engstrom has some great pace through the turns.
Tobias Gerber, though, has pulled himself a nice little 9/10 of a second gap. You can see as they hit the heel of the boot. Engstrom's got some work to do. Hroder giving chase, and you mentioned Mukanos tends to have good pace here. He's slotted down to 6th in this fight, but I have to wonder if they get away from a lot of these GTOs, if he might be able to run him back down and get those spots back. They're actually coming up to what looks like Lake and Hall.
That's correct.
So I think Tobias Gerber should be able to get at least one of them down into the 90, maybe both. Oh, he thinks about it, but he gets chopped through. Oh, and he gets into the side of Phil Lake as behind them spinning. Is that Engstrom? It is indeed.
Engstrom has some significant left side damage after that contact.
It was Hroder that just tipped him. I think it might have been a little bit of ghost contact as well. Watch on the replay.
Yeah. Horrible net code there.
With all this close racing, I guess at least some was inevitable at some point. Hroder loses out to Mukanos, coming back live as he is going to get up to 4th place. Now 2 positions gained just like that.
Looks like Fabian Gerber's right on the back of Rob Olenek again. This is for the lead of the GTPs. Rob Olenek just trying to hang on to the lead right now. He's trying to make it work, but Fabian Gerber, we've seen his late race pace and how much he can gain right now. We're almost halfway through this race, Joe, and Fabian Gerber's pace is starting to show.
It really is. And they have no threat from behind. Tobias Gerber, his brother, is about 8.7 seconds back. It's all up to these two at this point to settle out the win. But if you're Fabian, as we check in on the sorry, I missed who we were checking in on.
This is Nick Mukanos and Dustin Hroder and Aito Sentes Guindo just going past Yoni Hagner, our leader, and it was a very close, tight-knit moment. Nick Mukanos got held up by Yoni Hagner there with Hroder and Aito Sentes Guindo steaming by.
And a big slide for Hroder coming off of the 90. Mukanos could be able to get this one right back. They climb up the S's onto the back stretch. He's already right underneath that rear wing of the number 16. Ducks out to the outside, but does he have enough pace to be able to slingshot fully through? He's going to have to do it the long way around. The downforce could allow that with the banking of this corner. How brave is he? Well, not brave enough as he backs out early.
I don't think Nick's just quite comfortable enough with this car to do a move like that. That takes some serious guts. But he's going to have another opportunity because Hroder's extremely loose through the center of the corners here. His setup seems to be burning off those rear tires quite quickly. As we get later on this race, that's really going to hurt him on corner exit.
Let's stay with this fight, but just a note that what I was trying to get to a little bit earlier, Fabian Gerber, if he wants to take this championship, he needs to stay put, I would almost say, Adam, because if he takes some risks, he could still lose if he scores nothing or, well, very few points.
Well, that's going to be difficult. I mean, it's going to be tight because there are only 16 GTPs still racing in this race, so it's possible that he could, it would be very tight mathematically.
He has to score at least 16 points, and that is first, second, third, fourth, fifth place. And even then, he would lose on a tie. So he needs fourth place or better, essentially, to take this one.
And Gerber's fallen back a little bit through the first sector, but it looks like he's just kind of sizing up Rob Olenek. We haven't seen Rob have leading pace in recent weeks, and now they're coming up to side-by-side traffic here. Fabian Gerber, looks like Rob's getting held up significantly. This may be Fabian's opportunity.
Down and out of the chute, into the toe of the boot. They're able to clear Tremblay, who was in that blue GTO. Still, Fabian Gerber holding it to about 0.3 of a second as they come back uphill towards the heel of the boot. Still haven't seen anything really aggressive from him attempting to try and take this spot. Maybe he is waiting for something safe here instead of risking the car. Next up for them is Barry Bowes up ahead in the GTOs.
Yeah, Fabian Gerber is one of the calmer drivers we see on track. He doesn't take a lot of unnecessary risks. He takes calculated ones, and here's one that might work for him. Rob Olnick gets held up on the apex by Barry Bowes, and that's going to allow Fabian to close up, but looks like Rob was able to get a better exit onto the front straight.
This wasn't quite there as they break down into the 90 once more. Fabian Gerber, what kind of top-end speed does he have? We haven't really watched these two down the backstretch all that much. Has he got the wing cranked up, or has he trimmed it out to see if he can maybe get a pass here? They get up to 175, 180 miles per hour and climbing. Doesn't seem like he's got enough to try and overtake him, as we've had a problem with Heroder, I'm seeing. Down into the 90, the number 16 seems to have lost it on his own, and that's going to gift another position yet again to Mukanos.
Yep, Mukanos doing a good job just holding on to his positions right now. Whereas these leaders are just really tight in behind a couple of GTOs. They're going to start to get through the thick part of this pack soon, as we're going to take a look at Mukanos, Justin Heroder rather, as he has recovered from his accident.
Gets it going. He had a little bit of contact with the barrier, but it was a self-spin. Not too bad. Sintes Gaindo has still got Mukanos right behind him as we come back to Nick. But Sintes Gaindo looking very good along the straights here as he starts to pull away. They're also catching Bowes now. Oh, and there's that miscommunication I was talking about, trying to pick a side. Bowes eventually gets off to the outside of the corner, but that certainly held up Aitor.
Yeah, Aitor got held up. I'm not sure that's close enough for Nick to be able to make a move here. We're going to see what he can do here on the front stretch.
Let's stay with this, but just want to give an update for our GTO fans. Hagner's still your leader. Lake is still in fourth. At this point, Lake will lose the championship.
All right, here comes a good exit here from Aitor Sintes Gaindo, whereas, take a look at this. And we actually have a pass for the lead. Looks like Fabian Gerber's going to go around the outside of Rob Olnick for the lead in the GTPs.
He's trying it, but he unfortunately runs out of grip and pace there. Still, he sticks his nose in a little bit down into the chute. RC Diacono off to their left side, stays out of their way. So that was the best run we've seen from Gerber yet so far in this race. And we've got 18 minutes left to go. Another bit of a balk there for Rob Olnick coming off the corner as Bureau was in his way. Gerber not going to risk it, though.
Yeah, Olnick is having to figure out his way through the field because a lot of these GTO drivers are kind of in their zone. They're comfortable, they're safe, they haven't been passed by a GTP in a while, and then they get Rob Olnick coming up behind him, and then that kind of wakes them up. So Fabian Gerber actually gets the better of this traffic most of the time because these GTOs don't quite realize it's really challenging to calculate the closing speeds with these GTPs.
We've seen that time and again already today. Across the line, it's back up to 0.5 of a second. Let's hit down to 12th in our GTOs, which they're coming up to pretty quickly here. That's Scurry and Leo Cotta fighting in that Milk Zoo Championship, even though Scurry has wrapped it up. I'm sure he'd like as many points as possible. And he's going to get a nice little tow on the back stretch here.
Yeah, but Joe, I think the person who's in the best position is Letten Niemi in the background because he's actually got the best tow, but he's not going to be able to have enough room to get there. None of them are going to have enough room to get there, but look at that. Leo Cotta's quite loose.
Sorry, Fabian Gerber behind them might actually get this spot. He's going wheel to wheel with Rob Olnick, and they almost make contact just as they're coming up to this fight. Somehow they manage to
contact.
Oh, and he does make contact. This is with a GTO kart. He manages to keep it going. He backs out of it. Olnick gets the lead back. Oh, but he gets hit again. He gets hit again. And this is heavy damage.
I think that secures the championship for Justin.
How in the world did we wind up here?
Look at this pass here that Fabian makes on Rob Olnick. Risky but powerful. And then he gets here into the middle of this corner. The GTOs are just going so slow. He gets into the back of him, spins him around. He tries to back out of it, but then the GTO crosses the track again. Oh man, that does not look good.
Oh, just caught the grass and came back across the track. I thought he was clear. I thought he could limp it home to that 4th place he needs, but he's in the pits now. He had to take a tow. This would just take a Herculean effort for him to get all the way back up to P4 from here. So I think you're right, as we're going to check out on what's going on with Lake and Hall now and their battle for 3rd. It seems as though Justin, who we thought had lost the championship, suddenly finds himself with it again. What a bizarre end.
That's a very interesting way to end the points championship in the GTPs. And I just took a look at Leo Cotta's onboard, and he was absolutely trying to countersteer away from Fabian Gerber. So that was not anything intentional from him, the GTO that Fabian got into.
Also got that fight for 3rd, which is side by side in the prototypes. Mukanos on the outside, Sintez Guindo on the inside, and he's going to get it.
Oh, that was tight, really, really late braking from Guindo. He almost couldn't pull it off. Nick Mukanos looking to the inside again, but he's just not going to have enough room. They're coming up on Letaniemi again, and Letaniemi saw what happened last time. Let's see what he does here with some more GTP.
He's going to try and pull off to the side and let them through politely. So not really much of an interruption for them as we ride on board with Mukanos. Watching Sintez Guindo pull away slightly. At this point, though, with the way that a number of drivers seem to be dropping out, a podium is certainly on the cards for a few drivers, as Jungbluth is fighting with Kitty Ingstrom, and I think Ingstrom is going to be able to overtake him on his recovery drive.
Yeah, Jungbluth and Ingstrom fighting ahead, and then we had Heroder and John Keefe fighting behind them as well, so this GTP field is still very close and very contested.
We continue to watch Ingstrom and Jungbluth. They go by Letaniemi. Whoa, that's very late braking there for Jungbluth, and he somehow gets through there in time. Amazes me how deep they're willing to take those GTPs in order to not be held up.
Yeah, it's extremely dangerous for them to do that as well, because when they go that deep on the brakes, it often encourages the rear end to spin around on them, and that can really upset the car, especially on corner exits. So it's impressive to see these drivers take this GTP to the limit.
And Mukanos got it back from Sintez Guindo. A complete reverse of what we saw last lap. Just went by on the backstretch. So the number 12 back onto the podium once again.
Yeah, John Keefe and Dustin Heroder are actually duking it out right now. John Keefe went around the outside through the carousel, but look at Heroder coming into the boot. He's going to go along side by side. Here's Letaniemi ahead of him. He's just had no chance for rest with these guys, especially on this turn. Here goes John Keefe. Heroder's going to try and make the pass again.
Everybody seems to elect a battle as soon as they catch Esco, so I'm sure he's going to want a little bit of calmness once he finally gets everybody lapped past him once. Up ahead of them, that's Franco Scurry, and he's going to stay off to the left. There's that experience you can see, and him knowing exactly where to place the car, not to interrupt that fight. They get through,
Joe,
but go ahead.
Joe, Phil Lake has had some kind of issue because he has fallen all the way back to 8th position in the GTO. He has significant front left damage as well.
And Sintez Guindo has come in. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, this was about half a lap ago. Actually, about a lap ago is a significant accident with all of the people.
And Kitty Ingstrom on his lid. There we saw on screen. So he takes a tow as well. That promotes Jungbluth up to 4th. Krejcik to the top 5. Keefe reaches 6th. This is a race of attrition. Ingstrom managed to do that. Let's see here. Ooh, the curb was not friends with him, and he finds the barrier. And a bit of a glitch as well, unfortunately.
So I can report to you that Phil Lake got into the back of David Lambie, who was a slow car ahead of him, and then that caused a 3-car incident with himself and one of his teammates as well. So that was a significant accident. So Phil Lake, I don't see how he's going to get this championship today.
That he's going to have to hope for all of his rivals in front of him to have something horrible happen at this point. In fact, I wonder if Hall will overtake him in second in the points at this rate.
Well, that promotes Riley Thompson to 4th place, Reed Miller to 5th. Reed having a good, consistent race for himself today. So a lot of attrition at the top end of the field. This is something we haven't seen a lot of this season.
Yeah, those are usually the drivers that have the best ability to stay out of trouble. As we take a look at the number 13, Thompson, and then jump on board with Dustin Heroder. Certainly has had his fair share of action. He's gotten it going once again, but he's back to 7th, and he's trying to run down John Keefe.
Yeah, he's not giving up on this battle at all. He's going to try and make his way back up to John Keefe and make the pass on him again. But man, these two have been duking it out for quite some time.
Funny thing about Heroder is that he's back exactly where he started, which is 7th. So he could have had a much better finish today if he would have managed to be the ones to stay out of trouble. More battling GTOs in front of them.
Yeah, this is Daniel Sadro and Philip Lake, who they're going by. It's really, really close here. Oh, goodness. Contact between Heroder and Lake. Lake's top speed has not been damaged. I was watching him on that last straight. But look at this. Heroder trying to side his way through. He goes on the inside of Ben Lafter. That was close.
My goodness. Brave stuff from both drivers. Because Keith going around the outside almost looked like he made contact as well in all that mess. Some gutsy moves here from our GTP drivers, and that allows Heroder to stay in touch with the Hoosier to see if he can get that 6th place away around turn 9, back towards the end of the lap here. Less than 10 minutes to go if he wants to make this happen.
I think he might try. You've seen how aggressive he is. He's not giving up on this whatsoever. He's not just trying to hang on to the back of John Keefe. He's trying to make his way by.
Keith is going to be able to get by. That is and now I lost him on my screen, so apologies. That is the GTO of Reed Miller, who rides in 5th currently.
We'll see whether or not John Keefe gets held up here. He does not. He's able to get onto the straight clean, so that's going to make Heroder have to take the long way around. That's going to hold him up a little bit.
But this is Riley Thompson in front of him. Is he going to get Thompson in time? You talked about the similar top-end speed he is, but Heroder gets stuck behind. He manages to use the downforce to go around the outside of the carousel. But still, the gap between them up to 9/10 of a second. I think something's happened to Plumlee in the meantime.
Yes, Plumlee's gone around, it looks like.
Looks like out of turn 9.
Yeah, Robert
TV car. Go ahead.
He'd been having a fairly quiet race, just got a little bit of front-end damage on that GTP, and looks like he just gooses it up on the exit of the corner. This is something that's very easy to do in the GTP, but he's able to get it going straight again.
It didn't hit a thing. Just a little bit of embarrassment, and continues on his way. Plumlee currently riding in 11th. First car lap down in the prototype class. Looks like we got some action in the GTOs, though.
Yep, Ben Lafter and Phil Lake. Phil Lake wanting to get as many positions back as he can, give himself the best opportunity if Yoni Hagner gets into an incident. And I mean, chances are high. We've seen quite a few incidents today having to do with cars that really aren't involved with anything. Let's see whether or not Phil Lake gets a good exit here. He does, but is he close enough to Ben Lafter to try and make a pass into turn 1?
He's got a great run. He could have a go at it, but he decides not to. I have a feeling Lake is smart enough. He's going to wait for a draft here. And look at how close he is behind. There's no prototypes coming up behind them right now in the S's, which is great for them because he can just focus on staying with them. Ooh, great run through the S's. Now he's got momentum, but he's going around the outside. It is a drag race down to the carousel. And can Phil Lake manage to get this spot and get his fight for the championship back on track?
And he looks like Ben Lafter is going to concede the corner a little bit. Feel like braking a little bit later. He's going to slot right ahead of him through the carousel. And now that makes him move up forward. He's still got about 4.6 seconds to catch Reed Miller in 5th position.
Now that he's gotten by, I've just noticed that Roeder and Keefe, who are fighting, have joined Martin Krejcik. It is a three-way fight for a top 5 as we head over to them. Krejcik started this in 10th position. Worth pointing out ahead of him as well, Jungbluth started 12th, and he's in 4th now, so good day for the number 17. They come onto the front stretch. They're not too far back from Jungbluth. You can see on the camera shots the white and blue car just ahead of them, who is now going by Villirola, second in the GTOs. He could be caught by these 3.
Yeah, Dustin Heroder has a very interesting drive strategy with driving. We're going to go on board with, I believe this is Jungbluth, and he has a very interesting strategy for trying to attack the corners. He really dives it in and relies entirely on the downforce to get into the center of the corner. That's a strategy for driving this GTP that I haven't seen in a long time.
Well, right now it's looking to make him a little bit faster than John Keefe. They go by our GTO leader as well. And Hagner is another one that's going to be hoping that he doesn't fall victim to what we saw. A little bit to the inside, down into the chute. Keefe gives him space, but that's just not enough grip for Heroder.
And that's the kind of throwing it in there that I was talking about. Heroder just tosses it in there and relies on that downforce to slow him down. He must be running a lot of wing in order to be able to do that and maintain the car's traction.
That was costly for both of them. They fell off the back of Heroder. Oh, and into the side of the GTO car of Leo Cotta. Heroder just brushes and trades a little bit of paint. Oh, and he's going to trade a little paint here as well as he almost gets into the side of John Keefe now. He manages to stay out of him. No contact between the cars. And with traffic up in front, Keefe decides it's better to just back out of it and let it go.
I'm not sure Heroder's not significantly damaged off of that. We're going to see on this straight whether or not Heroder can pull away from Keefe. But it's possible he has front top speed damage because of that aerodynamic damage. Keefe is going to look at the inside.
Given space at the 90 as Keefe slides through. He's not done yet. Heroder gets a good exit and up the S's they go. He didn't even think about the damage that we could have seen on Heroder. And in fact, he does look like he's a little slow in a straight line here. You're right. Good eye.
Yeah, but he's got the draft now, so it's possible that he can make the pass on Keefe. Look at that 7-7 cam. Here goes Heroder. He's going to go to the inside again.
Tries to send it, but the carousel's not going to give him the chance quite yet. The 16 has to fall back.
Yeah, I think the 16 has some decent damage on that left side. It's affecting his steering as well, but Krejcik got held up ahead of them. We just saw that on screen by Christian Sgracia, who goes to the inside. Here comes Heroder and John Keefe to try and go by. Sgracia washes out. That holds up Heroder and Keefe.
And this is bad for Heroder, because if he's down on top speed, I'm not sure that he'll be able to catch back up to Keefe now, because he's probably using a little bit of that draft. Keefe instead spying Martin Krejcik up in front, thinking about that top 5. He's got about half a second to make up to see if he can get by the 24. So we come out to complete yet another lap. Got a little bit of a battle for 12th. Guess who? This time battling with his own class. Esko Letinaniame is on the outside and almost chops off on Franco Scurry, who can't quite make the pass.
Yeah, Franco Scurry has been clawing his way back up the field ever since an early incident for him that sent him around, and he is making some progress, but Esko's proving to be quite a formidable opponent. He's seen a few things today.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's been very hardened by this experience, it seems. As Heroder got himself into the draft once again. Wow, that was gutsy from Keefe.
Yeah,
how did he know that Bose was not going to be at the apex there?
Well, Bose was just washing out of that corner. We're going to take a look at this again. I think John Keefe recognized that Bose was washing out of the corner. Wow, look at this. Keefe, this is the pass on Heroder that Keefe made to the inside there on the first turn. That was at the 90. And oh no, Heroder's gone around while we're in replay.
Yeah, well, if we stay with this replay, we'll see everything unfold. So somehow her rotor had gotten by when we weren't watching, and he was trying to get it right back. You can see some of the damage on the rear wing of Rotor's GTP. He follows him down through. Now watch Keefe. Again, the fact that he had the awareness to know that GTO was not going to be there, and then let's stay with Rotor. This is going to happen out of the toe of the boot. Did he have help, or was this on his own? There's some lap traffic down. That's Scrodassi, I think.
Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, I think it was all on his own. Yes.
I think we've gone a little too far back for the. Yeah, this must have been a prior lap. It looks like.
If we actually go back down to the battle for 12th in GTOs, Franco Scurry just made the pass on Lenton Niemi, but looks like Lenton Niemi is trying to go back at him. No, he decides to back out of it a little bit. He's going to try and go around the outside. Does not work there. But Franco's slow on the apex.
Have an over-under here for Esco as he tries to get the launch, but coming up the hill, he starts to fall back a little bit. As this is happening, Rob Olenek is taking the white flag as he is looking at victory today. Probably one of the more unexpected victories. He started on the second row. He had pace. He was challenging for second, even though he wasn't catching Albrecht. There was a fight with Fabian, and then suddenly it fell in his lap. There you can see, having to deal with yet more traffic. Joni Hagner as well, 4 seconds ahead of Rolla and looking to wrap up this championship.
Yeah, Joni Hagner's been having a great run himself. Rob Olenek does not have an easy lap on his white flag lap. He's got quite a bit of traffic. Hopefully he navigates it well, but we're going to take a look at Joni Hagner. A really strong performance from him. Just kept it clean, kept his nose clean the whole day, and he's now coming on to his white flag lap soon.
And kept his nose clean all championship long because he missed 3 rounds. That's a 0 in one of his races. And yet still, he is getting ready to defeat Phil Lake on points.
This is Christian Strassi ahead of him.
Yeah, just incredible. Again, he's getting the white flag now. This is not the final lap for him. It's just starting as he crosses at this point. Meanwhile, Rob Olenek is just finishing up. 14-second gap back to Gerber, but it's not Fabian. It's Tobias Gerber who's behind him. Rob Olenek with 2 corners left to go.
Yeah, we're gonna stay here, but I can report Willy Rolla has had a problem and he's had to tow.
Bad news for the Glacier driver. Great news for Rob Olenek. Across the line victory for him here today. Tobias Gerber. Wow, Mukanos caught Gerber when we weren't looking. Not as much as he tries to send it out of the final corner. That's not enough, so Tobias takes second. Nick takes third.
Good finishes from both of them.
So Hagner up in the lead of the GTOs. And you mentioned Rolla having his issues. Hall gets promoted to second. Thompson onto the podium.
That puts Phil Lake in 5th, but that won't be enough to close off a championship. All he only has to do is exit the boot and get to the line cleanly.
And considering he's got no prototypes coming up behind him, Joni Hagner at this point is scot-free. He comes out of turn 9. Who would have thought just a few races ago, with how far behind he has been at points in the championship, that Joni Hagner could take all of it this season. But the Glacier Racing driver is not giving up. He never gave up. As he comes out of the final corner, the Finn takes the win and takes the championship here today in New York.
Jamie Hall just coming out of the final turn. A good race for him, a clean race, just trying to hang on to this position, and he's able to do it, taking second over Willy Rolla after that accident on the second last lap.
Watching Riley Thompson get a well-earned podium as he comes out of the final corner. He wasn't anywhere close to Jamie Hall, but I think he'll still be happy with that 3rd place. And I think we have a replay on what happened to Rolla. I didn't even get to see this, Adam. Did you manage to catch this?
Yeah, I did. It was a lapped car, I believe, that caused the incident. If we're going to, let's see whether we can take a look at this.
Pulling up the replay here. Sad to see this on the very last lap. I'm sure Glacier would have loved to have a 1-2.
Yeah, you see the amount of damage on the car, and this happens quite a ways back. It looks like Billy just couldn't decide where to go with the lap car ahead of him. We're going to see this coming through this corner here, penultimate corner. Here they come through, and he tries to go to the inside. The lap car tries to avoid him to the inside as well, and that just causes them to get together, and that is race-ending damage for Rolla.
Once again, I've mentioned it before, miscommunication, a big problem at this track. But right now we're communicating with you that we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Watkins Glen. I said that we were glad that you joined us for the finale, and I hope you're glad you watched because you had a stunner today. And up at the front of it all was none of our championship contenders in the prototypes. It was Rob Olenek who took the victory, with Tobias Gerber coming home in second behind him. Nick Lucanos wound up in third, climbing from sixth, but then Fabian Jungblut one-ups him, going from 12th on the grid to 4th out there. Martin Krajcik with a P5 finishes ahead of John Keith in 6th position. Dustin Baroder, who kept trying to get himself into there, had to settle for 7th place. Heitor Sintes Guindo was 8th, and Daniel Thomas, I don't think we even mentioned his name once. There was so much action out there. He finished 9th. Johnny Bell, first car a lap down, but still with a top 10.
Robert Plumley also finishes a lap down in 11th position, and they are the final GTP finishers, I believe. So then we move on to the GTOs. Yoni Hagner winning the race and winning the championship over his contending teammate of our contender Phil Lake, Jamie Hall, who finishes 2nd in the GTOs. Riley Thompson, a consistent drive from him and strong pace towards the end of the race, gives him 3rd place over Reed Miller in 4th. 5th place is going to be Phil Lake after his incident. That puts him, I don't believe it well, it definitely takes the win away from Phil Lake in the championship. Ben Lafter coming home in 6th place. Daniel Sadro in 7th in the GTOs. In 8th is Obe Trengrade, and Fabio Lotti finishing in 9th in the GTOs.
Remigio De Pasqua was 2nd in that Milk Zoo race today. Yoda just ahead of him, but De Pasqua 21st overall. Franco Scurry 22nd, just behind him. The driver who I think got the most screen time without hardly being in a battle most of that time was Esko Letaniemi. In 23rd, Vili Rolla wound up in 24th, and I believe this is about 13th or 14th in his class, unfortunately for Vili. Wolf Dietrich Hotho, 25th overall. Antonio Arce Diacono, 26th, and then Joseph Erlbach in the 27th spot. Christian Scrazia saw him with a bit of problem early on in the race. He wound up 28th. Fabrizio Raffa, 29th, and Josu Liocata, 30th.
31st is going to be Pascal Malenfant Tremblay, and then we have Barry Bowes in 32nd position. Dominic Bureau, after his incident and major damage, comes home in 33rd position. And now we get to our DNFs. We start off with Jim McGill, Carlos Fonseca, and Juan Ignacio Jodicurcha, and then we have Eduardo Letio coming home in the 37th position. 38th is Kitty Engstrom, 39th Matthias Radal, and then 40th Fabian Gerber.
41st went to Luis Bernardino with Andre Montero, 42nd. Simo Raba, Michael Haynes. We had 20 cars DNF today. That was a very hefty race for a lot of these guys. Ryan Lang, David Lambie, Roberto De Filippis, Justin Albrecht is our champion from what we can tell, ahead of Fabian Gerber, despite both of them wrecking out. David Hudson, Scott Willis, Robert Lukashek, Laust Olsen, and John Atkinson Jr. rounds out your field. We've got our winner ready to talk to us, Rob Olenek. Let's see what he has to say about this one, because Rob, we were so focused on our championship contenders, and yet it was you that won today, and you weren't even in the points fight.
Oh, anybody could have won today. There's so much traffic out there.
It certainly seemed like there was quite a few aggressive moves happening in that traffic as well. When the incident happened that took Fabian out, were you a bit surprised at some of the moves he was making? Because I don't know if you were aware of his point situation once Albrecht went out, that he essentially just had to finish where he was.
Justin had already won the championship. So when Justin went out, I felt like I had pretty good pace over Fabian. He was running a higher wing, so on the straight, I caught him easy, and I knew that if I was in front of him, even when he went by, that's why I was a little safer through traffic, because I knew if he got by, most likely I could easily get back by again. But yeah, that championship was over. I think Justin had won it a couple weeks ago.
Oh, we were talking about the broadcast race championship, not necessarily the official championship.
Yeah, he won that one. I'm pretty confident he did. Yeah, I'm pretty confident.
It was 16 points between them coming in, so we'll double check that though. But
Justin had like a 22-point drop, I think is why. So even if he basically had, what is that, a third today? Like no matter what.
We were told there was only 2 drops, and we saw missing weeks for both of them. So Wasn't
Well,
really
I'm not
sure.
sure.
Again,
I thought I was sure, but I'm not sure now.
Okay,
But
we'll go and double check it.
at
But
least that's what I thought while I was racing. That made a difference on what I did.
Yeah, exactly. That does change your mentality completely. But let's talk about your race, though. Once you were in the lead, you had quite a bit of a gap back to Tobias Gerber, the other Gerber. So did that kind of slow you up a little bit? Did it for you with how much?
Absolutely. I was just trying to make it to the end, and the gap wasn't even changing, and I felt like I was being super safe. It's such a weird way to race with that many cars on track. It doesn't. It's more of, I think, a shame for the Audi championship. I mean, congrats to Yoni, but like it's not as much of a battle with your own car. It's just surviving, and when you're trying to win a championship on the last race that's so busy, that's tough because it's really, it almost seems like you're rolling the dice on whatever happens. um, I just drove safe and got lucky is really what happened for me.
Well, that seemed to be the winning strategy. And I'll open up a little bit of a box here that says Pandora on the side. Knowing that, do you think that you guys might petition for smaller splits next season, or do you like keeping it at 55?
um, it's a mixed bag, even for myself personally. I mean, I voted to not have 55, but I enjoy the 55 car race if I make it through the first few laps, and then I like it a lot. But it is, I don't know. For me personally, I don't know which way I go. I think it really stinks for the guys that contribute to the broadcast if they don't make it into the split. But then on the other side, you know, dealing with that much traffic, is different for the guys up front. So I don't know what the right thing to do is.
Yeah, that'll probably take some serious discussion. Well, regardless, congratulations on surviving, I suppose, and
Yeah.
taking victory.
All right. See you guys next season.
That was Rob Olenek. As we'll send our guys back to check our math and see if we are correct on the point situation. In the meantime, the winner and champion in the GTOs is Yoni Hagner talking to Adam.
Yeah, Yoni, congrats on the championship. Looking at your lap times, they definitely do not tell the story of this race because they're fairly consistent. How was it out there in the lead of the GTOs trying to hold off the guys behind and deal with the traffic?
Well, I was like giving 107% on the start because I wanted to break the draft to Will, and I give my everything. And yeah, I noticed that on the last few laps that my tires were like really, really used, and it was quite slippery. So yeah, it was a fun race. Shame to Will, he got wrecked on the second last lap.
Yeah, definitely. For the first half of the race, it seemed like it was really a draft battle between your team and the Dirty Torque drivers. How difficult was it to maintain the lead when they were so close, especially on that long back straight?
Not so bad to keep the lead, but pulling away was really difficult because yeah, the draft is really strong in this track and this car.
Yeah, definitely. And Yoni, it seemed like you had a huge pace advantage in practice. It was about zero point 0.6 seconds. Is there some secret that you guys are keeping in your back pocket, just a better setup, or just is this one of your favorite tracks that you like to drive?
This is not my favorite track at all, but I have driven here a lot because this is yeah, well used track.
Well, Yoni, congratulations on the championship, and we look forward to seeing you next season. Is there anyone else you want to thank today before we go?
Yeah, I want to say congrats to Esko. I teached him a bit today, and he was a really good pace today. Seems like behind Franco, so really good race for him.
Awesome. Well, good talking to you, Yoni, and we look forward to seeing you next season.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
That was Yoni Hagner, our winner in the GTOs and the winner of the championship in the GTO class. And we have Phil Lake, who unfortunately came home in fifth today, talking to Joe P.
Yep. Unfortunately, the championship lead went away with this one. Phil, your thoughts on going from first to second in the points in the very final round?
I kind of had a feeling that was how this race was going to go. At the start, I thought maybe I'd be able to get into the mix with Vil and Yoni and see what I could do, but it never really looked like it was on the cards. And then that issue with the lapped car, and that kind of really put pay to any hopes of anything happening today.
It certainly sounds like it did sting a little bit, but you did at least have a little bit of hope there at the start, sticking with them. If it wasn't for that lap car, do you think it was possible that maybe you and Hall could have worked together to try and catch them, or is it just did they just have too much pace in those Glacier machines?
No, they're too fast. Yoni and Vil has gained a lot of time over the last few seasons, and he's become extremely quick, and Yoni's always been quick. So, I'm pretty proud to be that close to him in the championship. I know he did one round less than me, so you could probably add another 25 points onto his total. But it's fun racing with him, and just try harder next season.
And speaking of next season, we've now seen you kind of jump back and forth between the prototype and the GTO. Are you sticking with the Audi next season, or are you going to get back into the Nissan?
I'll be staying in the Audi for probably a couple seasons now.
Well, we will look forward to watching you give it another try at seeing if you could put one over on Joni Hagner. Commiserations. Can't be too disappointed with second in the championship. It proves that you are indeed one of the fastest out there.
Yeah, thanks, guys, and congrats to Yoni.
It was Phil Lake, who certainly sounds a little bit dejected here today, unfortunately. But that is racing sometimes. You can't win them all. And we had fun at least watching this battle, as it was just a wild race out there today. So we want to thank the Kamel community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and also give a thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support the channel, we've got a link on our website to our merchandise store. That is gsrc.storenv.com. And it's also in the description below on this YouTube channel. We'll hopefully be back in 2 weeks' time covering the Kamel series, but we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. So check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.